country. Now, you're probably wondering, why should I watch over here instead of over there? Because over there, they do not care about what you have to say. They don't read any of the comments. They talk down to us. They think we're just a bunch of clowns on YouTube. They say this all the time, but I think it's the opposite. I think we know exactly what we're talking about. So I read every single comment. So if you think what I'm saying is the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard, let me know in the comments below. If you think what I'm saying is the most amazing thing, then definitely please let me know. Either way, let's get into some discussions, let's get into some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and it's truly turning into something special. I want to build something that we genuinely feel connected to, something that we all really feel proud to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. So please definitely consider subscribing. So without further ado, let's get to it. We are watching a clip of The Herd with Colin Cowherd, of course, talking about, did Aaron Rodgers make a mistake leaving the Packers? Let's just see what he has to say, and then I'll kind of share my thoughts, because I definitely have some thoughts in general, but I kind of want to see what he has to say with regards to this, and we can kind of, work from there.
Years and years. But their choice made sense to them because Aaron was getting older, prickly, some drama, not always the easiest guy to coach. So you didn't have to like the results until the last 7 weeks, but the choice was reasonable. And I was thinking about Jordan Love and the choices. So when Tom Brady left, he was a free agent in New England. There were a lot of choices he could have made, but what did he choose? He chose an offensive line that was 7th in the NFL. They needed a right tackle. They draft one. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Cameron Brate, I think O.J. Howard, offensive coach. So Brady looked at what his current situation didn't have and frustrated him. He wanted an offensive coach, better weapons, guys that could separate. So he made really good choices. Now, we didn't love the results for the first 12 weeks. They were 7-5. It's a really smart thinking. Then there was Matt Stafford. He had a no-trade clause. He could have vetoed anywhere. And he looked at the Rams and went, I'm older. They got a great left tackle, Andrew Whitworth, super smart head coach, star receiver, Cooper Kupp, and a good defense. I don't have to win by a shootout every week. And also, the Rams O-line was 3rd the year before he got there. So if you look at the results, that's all we pay attention to Brady and Stafford, the results. But even if Stafford and Brady don't win a Super Bowl, their choices were really smart. Older quarterbacks, elite O-lines, right? Weapons, offensive coaches. Stafford wanted to stay in the weaker conference. Brady wanted to go to the weaker conference, the NFC. Brady wanted to go to a weaker division. His only rival was old Drew Brees. You could tell Tom was very thoughtful about it. You could tell Stafford.
Yeah, but that doesn't completely make sense, because Tom Brady also wanted to go to Miami and go to the Dolphins. So I understand what he's trying to say, but that's not like 100% accurate in that regard. He most definitely wanted to go to the Dolphins. Then obviously he tried to like make this whole thing by going with like Sean Payton, and obviously that didn't work out. But he was trying to go to the AFC, and then he was going to be in, the AFC. So that's not completely true 100% what he's saying in that regard.
I want to go face Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. I want to stay in the NFC.
I mean, he was literally trying to get into the same division as Josh Allen.
All right. And then there's Aaron Rodgers. He had a smart offensive coach. He had a very good offensive line. It was ranked 3rd. He had a star running back, and they just drafted Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson, really, really talented young receivers. And Aaron went, no, I want to go to a defensive coach with a losing record to the 31st ranked offensive line. Packers were 3rd. I know, it doesn't sound right. Shaky, impulsive O-line, shaky, impulsive owner, defensive coach, 1-star wide receiver in a much tougher division, a much tougher conference where I'm an old quarterback and there's like 7 new great young ones in their prime. Forget about his vaccine and political opinions. Aaron's football IQ isn't very high. Stafford, even Russell Wilson.
I like how he gives him like a double dig there because he's trying to call him out for, the stuff. I'm not going to get into it. I don't need this video to get flagged for political type reasons. But so I'm not sharing any opinions with regards to that. None, zero. Don't, not even going to engage in them in the comments. But when it comes to his football IQ, I get what Colin is saying. I do. And I know the counter to that is when you're a competitor, you just, you don't do that. And that's not really true. You are strategic. The champions, the elites, the GOATs, when you really look at it, you realize like a lot of things had to go their way and strategy did take place, right? LeBron being dominant was very strategic. When he went to Miami, he simultaneously took down multiple teams in the East, because he ruined Cleveland, obviously, and he ruined Toronto by taking Bosch with him. So right then and there, bam, he already takes down 2 contenders, goes to Miami, and then all you do is have to go up against the Pacers every year, right? Like he wasn't going out west to do with like that gauntlet where at the time it was like, unbelievable to the point where they started talking about that maybe they should just reseed everything as a whole. And LeBron was like, whoa, let's not get too crazy. And then the East started to get a little bit harder. And when the West started to get weaker, he's like, all right, I'm going to now move to the West. Like that's all strategy. Make no mistake about it. But besides that, within football, Aaron Rodgers, because he had said, I think this part got skipped. But Colin said, don't judge a decision based on the outcome, that you can't always, predict an outcome, which is true. But that's what he's doing right now with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron got hurt, obviously. And now if you want to say it was because of the offensive line, I mean, I get it, but that's also kind of a stretch. And I'm not going to tell you that the Jets would have been this amazing team if Aaron stayed completely healthy. But the truth is we really have no idea what that team would have looked like. We really don't. I mean, we just don't. That defense was elite, obviously. And I don't know what, what's his face was such a bad quarterback that you couldn't get any sense of like, what would this offense look like with a good quarterback? Because, Zach Wilson was just so bad that you were just like, I mean, how could I possibly evaluate what this offense looks like? You just can't. So it's just not really fair. And I'm not trying to necessarily defend Aaron Rodgers, because I think it probably would have been better to stay with the Packers for Aaron. But I think Aaron has a few things going on for him right now. One, he's obviously an elite quarterback, and he's obviously incredibly successful. So that alone now makes you believe that you are God, essentially, right? I mean, like it's like when you are this successful at like anything, you just really, you get higher in your own supply because you're just like, look what I did. Aaron was also doubted earlier in his career, both in the NFL initially, obviously, not being drafted very high relative to what he obviously became. And then also, he had to go to like a junior college and stuff like that. So again, it's like he kind of almost has like this rapper mentality of like, I came from the streets and like, look what I did. I escaped the streets. I escaped the drug game, the crimes, the everything. And now I'm rich. Look at me. You can't touch me. And so you just start to believe that. I mean, you just start to think like, I did this all. So you don't get a lot of humbleness from, say, an Aaron Rodgers. He becomes kind of like a prisoner of his own success in a lot of ways. And Aaron Rodgers obviously deserves a ton of credit for who he became, right? Without a doubt. But at the same time, it kind of infects the way you think. I felt this way before when I was a little bit younger and I started doing certain things in my life that I started to get successful at. and I could feel it, right? I could feel it being like, look what I did. Look what I created. Look what I accomplished. And I'm really lucky that I, you know, kind of grew out of that, and I also just wasn't so successful that I just kept going higher and higher and higher, and I was just like, look at me now, right? Like, I got punched in the face a handful of times, and so I can only imagine what it's like for you just to just keep going, right? Just like everything you do is just getting better and better and better, and you're just making more and more and more and more money, and getting more MVPs, more records, more this, more that. You're just like, I am a god. No one can touch me. And I really think that's what Aaron suffers from. And he never had someone who to like really kind of like look up to in that regard. And I don't even mean look up to as a role model. I just mean like someone that he could say, okay, this person was a big contributor of my success. Like Tom Brady obviously had a Bill Belichick. So Tom Brady couldn't just say, look what I did. I'm the one that won all these Super Bowls. No ifs, ands, or buts. Right? Like there was the actual debate of like, who is it? And I'm not saying that it wasn't more Tom Brady or less Tom Brady. That's not the point of the argument is. But there was legitimate questions, right? I mean, about it. And I don't think, even if you ask Tom, he's not just going to say, oh, I led them to the Super Bowl and won all those Super Bowls. I think Aaron Rodgers in his heart believes that he won he won his Super Bowl and had all his success. I think if you ask him, he'll give you like some generic humble thing, like, it's a team sport. And, we had Greg Jennings and, Mike McCarthy and this and that, had some great schemes and blah, 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 blah. But in his heart, he believes like, look what I did. I'm the MVP. I'm the one that won these MVPs. And so I think that's kind of where it can kind of go off the rails for Aaron. And I think this is also the problem of, when you are ultra successful and you're not married and you don't have kids and stuff like that, there's just nothing to really ground you. Greg talked about this. Greg Jennings, he talked about this, how, especially when you have like a public persona and stuff like that, you say a lot of things either to the media or, in an interview or, maybe to other people in the locker room, whatever it may be. He's like, but then you go home and you talk to your wife, you talk to your girl, and you're like, oh yeah, like we are not good this year, right? Or like whatever it may be, like, oh, we are going to get rocked next weekend. Like you're just more real. And also your partner, your wife, boyfriend, whoever, like helps you also stay grounded. Like especially if it's an actual mutual relationship, and it's like, an actual true partnership. It's like, you say, what are you doing, right? Like if Aaron was married and had kids, he would potentially have a wife that would say, Aaron, what are you doing? Why are you trying to go to New York? We have it so good here. Like, why? Like it's just something to bounce off. But instead, Aaron only has friends who are probably yes men friends, and obviously has other people that work for him, and then he's other people that he's dating, and he typically is dating people who either are meeting him now later in life, who aren't just going to be like, oh, Aaron, you're just the best, right? I mean, that is what they're going to do. Oh, Aaron, you're just the best, right? Like, because they're just like, please pick me, right? It's just different. It's just a different, flow of things. So you need people to kind of keep you in check. And when you don't have that, the more successful you are and the older you get, the more, I just think that can kind of get out of control. I wouldn't say that Aaron has like a low football IQ. I just think he believes in himself to just such an insane level. And from his perspective, there's no real reason to doubt that, so.
Hackett from Pete Carroll, defensive coach. Hackett's an offensive coach. Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Bowles, the left tackle, a good starring young running back, tight end they liked, and some nice defensive players. Now, the result for Russell wasn't good. It was good for Stafford and Brady, but the decisions Russell made were based on a young offensive coach who had Aaron Rodgers, left tackle, running back, couple receivers, all make Jerry Jeudy better. It just didn't pan out. That's why I always say, be careful about just judging results. Are the choices your financial advisor makes, your attorney makes, your family, your wife, your husband, are the choices.
But that's what doesn't make sense, though, because he's judging Aaron Rodgers on the outcome then, and not just the choices. So that's what doesn't really make sense. Because what if Aaron played really well this season and the Jets made it to the playoffs and, won their first round? I mean, like, who's to say that Aaron Rodgers wouldn't have, wouldn't have, with that defense, the Jets defense, and Aaron Rodgers as QB, if you look at the seeding, who's to say that they wouldn't have went and go beat Kansas City and the Chiefs? I mean, the Dolphins barely made that a game. Who's to say with the Jets defense, I just proved my own point. The Jets almost beat the Chiefs with Zach Wilson, okay? And they probably should have won. I forget exactly how that game unfolded. I know it was a little controversial. It was like slightly controversial. That was one of the beginnings of when Taylor Swift was in the box, and you also had Wolverine and gosh, what the heck is the other guy? Ryan Reynolds and stuff. So, I mean, do we really not think that if we have Aaron Rodgers there, that he wouldn't have, would have led them to a victory? So again, what he would have now, let's just do that, just, humor me there. The Jets would have most likely been in a position to play the Chiefs in the playoffs instead of the Dolphins. And if that's the case, there's genuine, true reason to believe that the Jets would have beaten the Chiefs. They almost beat them with Zach freaking Wilson. Okay? Think about that. The Jets defense really shut down Patrick Mahomes and almost won with Zach Wilson. Therefore, we could say that Aaron Rodgers, if healthy and played even just a chunk, 80%, 90% of who he has been in the past, they would have won. Because a 70% Aaron Rodgers is better than a 100% Zach Wilson. Indisputable. So then what would we be saying here? Look what Aaron Rodgers did. He just took down and beat the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. With the Packers, he couldn't get past Tom Brady. He lost to Tom Brady. You know what I mean? So you can't necessarily just say that. So I don't really know exactly where Colin is going with this segment. I mean, I know where he's trying to go, but it just doesn't really completely add up because it's not fair. If Aaron played this season and the Jets just didn't play well and he didn't make the playoffs, or he made the playoffs and he lost first round, right? Like they were like the last seed and they played the Bills and lost to the Bills or something, right? We would say, okay, maybe not a great season, and the Packers obviously lit up the Cowboys, then you could make those arguments, but I just don't know. Like, it's just not fair. There's true reason to believe that the Jets would have made the playoffs. They would have at least been, instead of the Steelers, and maybe even beat out the Dolphins. And if that's the case, they could have played the Bills or the Chiefs. And who knows in those games? I mean, Aaron Rodgers is not some scrub over here. It's like, what are we talking about here? And especially with that Jets defense was really legit, real. And they would have given Aaron Rodgers some great field position on many possessions and extra possessions. So I'm not getting it. I think Aaron Rodgers and the Jets would have had a legitimate good season this year. I think they really would have. And I think there's true reason to believe that they would have beaten the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, and then we would have said, look what Aaron just did. He just knocked out the Super Bowl defending champions. And then where do you bring this conversation to then? So that's just the way I see it. I would love to hear your thoughts on this one. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and please don't forget to subscribe, and definitely please do give this video a thumbs up, as it really helps with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.